In a NewsNation Network exclusive, Area 51 veterans chosen by the government for top secret work have something in common other than their service. Now, some saying they're getting sick with serious health issues, tumors, and cancer. Decades ago, these men were hand-picked. And today, they still can't talk about their missions in the desert. But as they get sicker, the vets tell me the Department of Defense still will not acknowledge their service on the range, keeping them classified and unable to get the critical benefits and care they need. Tonight, we are showing you the evidence of what the government may have known before sending them to the secretive range.
They keep us classified to protect themselves.
A group of Air Force veterans and a DoD contractor say they have been sickened, even disfigured, after being stationed in the desert in the mid-'80s to early 90s.
But I assumed it was safe. They still send people there.
A position of pride becomes a bitter bite of betrayal.
Did you have any idea what you were being exposed to?
None. None of us knew.
Air Force veteran Dave Creet's son, born with a brain tumor.
It's the worst. Those are the most innocent victims.
These veterans say they served at the Nevada Test and Training Range, which encompasses the infamous Area 51, a remote spot that hosted nuclear testing both underground and atmospheric. Since the 1950s, their work so secret there would be no record that the men ever served in the windswept desert.
What was so top secret about this work?
It was the technology behind it. That's what we were there to make sure nobody got.
They still can't talk about most of their work on the range, but the one mission they can now disclose, guarding the F-117 Nighthawk, America's first stealth bomber.
We ended the Cold War, truly.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
The story begins with a reunion barbecue back in 2016 at veteran Dave Creet's Las Vegas home. Air Force buddies who hadn't seen each other in decades make a startling discovery.
So I asked the guys, we're just sitting around drinking beers. I said, you guys, I got this lump on my back. And I don't know, has anybody else got that?
I said, yeah, I had one of those. I had it removed. It was the size of a grapefruit.
6 out of the 8 vets had benign tumors called lipomas. The 7th said, I don't have any, but my son was born with one.
It just kind of confirmed it. There was an issue. Where we were, that's the one common denominator, is we were all there.
Veteran Mike Nemsick has the same tumors starting around his eye, then multiple cancers.
It was to the point where I felt forsaken. I thought, my God has forsaken me.
His 4 bouts with cancer, starting at just 38 years old, have taken a toll. Throat, salivary gland, bladder, and colon.
What was your biggest fear during that period of time?
That I would die and leave a young family without a father, without a provider.
Mike says he feels responsible for the young men he selected for his team, like Bob Morton, who passed away in 2021 of lung cancer. He was 58 years old.
I selected Bob to be a part of my team, and it weighs on my mind if I wouldn't have done that, would he still be here?
A DoD contractor who worked at the base at the same time as these vets sickened.
Yeah, they took his teeth out first because they had to scrape out a lot of cancer.
They had to scrape out a lot of cancer.
2 cancers, 80% of his tongue removed along with his vocal cords, all of his teeth. He lives on a feeding tube.
I have a feeding tube, but at first I saw friends that A, passed away, B, paralyzed, can't walk, etc. And I'm just blessed.
And before Pop Braswell was a Harlem Globetrotter and a pro golfer, he served.
You know you're handpicked. You know you're the top at the top.
The Air Force vet now fighting thyroid cancer.
I also feel pushed aside. Our government, who has chosen to use national security as their excuse to not take care of the people who took care of them.
The veterans tell NewsNation their medical claims are being denied by Veterans Affairs. The work so top secret, their records are what's called data masked, as if they were never there.
It's like a kick in the gut. It's just a matter of betrayal.
After learning of the serious health conditions his Air Force brothers were suffering from, Dave did some research on the Nevada test site. Hundreds of nuclear weapons tests were conducted in the area from the 50s until the early 90s. In the 1970s, the government began exploring the idea of building a military installation there to house classified projects. A 1975 Department of Defense environmental report of the area acknowledges nuclear contamination, depleted uranium, beryllium, and plutonium present before the men were sent by the government to the range. But the report says, quote, discontinuing the work done would be against the national interest.
It's one thing to be ignorant, or to be naive, to not know, but they've understood for a long time.
Dave's discoveries led him to create the Invisible Enemy, an advocacy group where he says he's connected with more than 1,000 veterans who served at the Nevada test site. Hundreds of them report being sick.
Our government knew that that area was contaminated. So knowing that, and they willfully put us there, that's given somebody a death sentence.
The vets are angry and confused that in 2000, Bill Clinton signed the Employees Occupational Illness Compensation Program Act. It provided medical care and compensation for the Department of Energy workers who were sickened from nuclear exposure at that exact same site in the desert, but not veterans or DoD contractors. NewsNation reached out to the Department of Defense for answers. The DoD said they will not comment and referred us to the Air Force. The Air Force said, quote, we don't have any information available from that time frame. We asked our NewsNation medical contributor about the vet's medical conditions. He believes a common exposure is probable.
When you look at the statistics, cancer in this group of subjects is about a 6% type of an occurrence, right? Invasive cancers. It's pretty straightforward that there was a common exposure because the numbers of cancers and the number of illnesses and the number of deaths in this cohort is much, much higher than you'd expect, given just normal circumstances.
Along with the worries of their own health concerns, many of the vets carry something else: guilt. They fear they've exposed their families through contamination brought home on their uniforms, routinely covered in dust from the test site.
We were in the dirt all the time. I can recall the times where when we'd perspire, that our uniforms would turn kind of a yellowish orange.
You got a barbed wire fence telling you don't go to the other side of this barbed wire fence because it's contaminated. Barbed wire stops a lot of dust in the wind, doesn't it?
Exposure, they fear, may have led to miscarriages, autoimmune conditions, and other diseases in their loved ones.
My mom and dad.
Yeah, I love these photos.
Grandpa, thank you.
Jennifer Page believes she lost her dad and mom far too early after both worked for years on the range.
I sat at her bedside every day, just holding her hand. The way she apologized, crying, I'm sorry I ever worked there. I know that that's what's killing me.
Her mother's dying act to work to declassify images she said would be important in one day unearthing the truth.
And I asked her, I said, Mom, why did you save some documents? And she said, because I always knew I was exposed. She was so young when she started there.
And this is the kind of proof that you're left with, that she actually did show up to that job every single day.
Right.
These veterans tell NewsNation these decades later, they are gearing up for a new fight, this time for government transparency.
We did something important. We did good work. We changed things. We don't deserve being ignored by saying we don't exist.
NewsNation has been searching for answers after the DoD had no comment and the Air Force said that they don't have information available for that time frame. We went to the VA. The VA told us there is no presumption of exposure for these veterans who served at the range. These vets will need to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis to prove their illness is related to their service. The vets say that's difficult, if not impossible, when their data is masked. And time is of the essence. When we first aired this story in February, there were 446 names on their memorial list. Dave Crete just updated me tonight. That number has grown to 519. And I'm now joined by Congressman Mark Takano, ranking member of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs. Congressman, thank you so much for taking the time tonight. It's always good to see you. And you were such an early advocate for these Area 51 vets. What goes through your mind when you see their story yet again?
Natasha, we're running out of time. Dave and the others who served our country are heroes at the Nevada test and training site. They were exposed to radiation. The fact that our government is behaving the way it is shameful. I just hate it. I hate it when I see veterans having to fight their own government. This case-by-case nonsense has got to stop, and that's what I tried to put an end to when I passed the PACT Act into law.
Yeah, the PACT Act did so much. And, you saw this story. You've invited Dave Crete to speak twice now at the House Veterans Affairs Committee roundtable. What have you learned from hearing directly from him and the other Area 51 veterans? And how has that shaped your own calls for action now?
Well, I believe there needs to be a full-on hearing by the Veterans Affairs Committee. I've called on Chairman Mike Boss to do that. I believe also, I've said publicly that the Secretary of the VA, Secretary Collins, should fast track presumptive processes to determine new presumptive illnesses based on toxic exposures. We wrote those processes into the PACT Act. So, and I also, believe we need to pass, Mr. Amade's and Miss Susie Lee's bill I think it's HR 1400, which is the bill that would declare their illnesses, presumptive illnesses, meaning presuming that they are connected to their exposure.
Yeah.
To radiation.
And you've said before, you said, I'm a little frustrated. I called on the chairman to hold hearings on Area 51, and I still reiterate that call for the chairman to do that. I believe this is deserving of a full hearing by the Veterans Affairs Committee. What has been the response, and what message does it send if these hearings continue to not happen or be delayed?
Well, of course, the government's been shut down for the last several weeks. The Congress has not been meeting. I've been conducting roundtables, nevertheless, but committees have not been meeting. But even before then, this has not been a high priority of my Republican colleagues and the majority and the chairman. And I'm disappointed. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. What I can do is continue to put pressure on them and to stand by Dave Crete and the others as we go into Veterans Day weekend. This is a shame.
Yeah, and you mentioned, since the story aired in February, 2 pieces of legislation were introduced. I want to ask, it would do so much to the momentum and trajectory of these pieces of legislation if you would consider co-sponsoring them. Would you consider that?
I would definitely consider that. I definitely consider that. They should get hearings. And again, we can work through the legislative process to pass a law to declare these presumptives, these exposures as presumptive of the illnesses that these men are contracting as presumptive illnesses. But as I say, there's an administrative process as well. But I have to say, Secretary Collins is going the other direction. He's actually, since the PACT Act was enacted, been the first secretary to narrow the presumptive illnesses. He's male breast cancer. He has made ineligible. It was eligible before, but this secretary is going in the other direction. Instead of expanding the scope of presumptives, he's going the other direction.
Yeah. I want to talk more about that, and I want to play this sound as well. I had the honor of co-moderating the Hills Veterans Voices Summit in D.C. this week. I got to speak with you on stage just a couple days ago. Yeah. You shared something personal with the audience, and I want to play that moment quickly. A show of hands, how many among us have been personally affected by veteran suicide?
Yeah.
That's nearly every hand.
Well, I could raise my hand too. At 10 years old, I came home from school around this time of year, maybe a little bit earlier in the time of year, but I was 10 years old, and I'd learned that that my uncle, who had served a tour in Vietnam, had taken his life. So very young. It was one of the things that I think impelled me to join and become a member of this committee, that I remember that experience.
And I know one of the people watching told me specifically that they hadn't known this about you before. They appreciated this being the genesis for some of your work. And really, just this moment, you authored the Honoring Our PACT Act. So huge. It addresses toxic exposed veterans in a long-standing way. Are you worried the PACT Act is now under threat, that it's being chipped away at?
I am worried about that. I'm worried about that my Republican colleagues don't really want to fund the PACT Act as sufficiently. I'm worried about the Secretary moving too slowly on veterans who have been exposed. As we discover more, like the Area 51 veterans, he should be expediting. He should be meeting with Dave Breed. Heck, the President of the United States, should be meeting with these veterans. And I worry that the Secretary, as I said, is moving in the wrong direction. He has already started to narrow the list of presumptive illnesses. There's some like 23 illnesses that we declared, 23 buckets, which are really more like 300 illnesses, and he's starting to whittle that bucket down.
Yeah, and real world impacts for veterans and their families from that. I always appreciate your time so much. Ranking member of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs, Congressman Mark Takano, thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Natasha. You too.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.